The morning of September 11, 2001, began like any other in New York City. The World Trade Center's North Tower buzzed with the hum of early meetings, ringing phones, and the soft clatter of keyboards. On the 71st floor, Omar Rivera, a senior systems designer for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, settled into his office. By his side, as always, was Salty, his yellow Labrador guide dog. Salty's tail thumped gently against the floor, his calm presence a steady anchor for Omar, who had been blind since his teenage years. The dog's training with guiding eyes for the blind had made him a master of navigating the city's chaos. Subways, crowded sidewalks, and escalators were second nature to him. 7 floors above, on the 78th, Michael Hingson, a sales manager for Quantum, was preparing for a day of seminars. Blind since birth, Michael relied on Roselle, his 5th guide dog, a yellow Labrador with a gentle spirit and a knack for staying cool under pressure. Roselle, trained by guide dogs for the blind in California, was napping under Michael's desk, her soft snores a quiet comfort in the busy office. The two had been a team since November 1999, their bond built on trust and an unspoken understanding that carried them through life's challenges. At 8:46 a.m., the ordinary shattered. American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower, striking between the 93rd and 99th floors. The building lurched violently, tilting as if it might topple. On the 78th floor, Michael felt the floor shudder beneath him. A muffled boom echoed, followed by the groan of steel and the screams of his colleagues. It felt like an earthquake, he'd later recall. Debris rained past the windows, and the acrid smell of jet fuel began to seep into the air. Under his desk, Roselle snapped awake. Her ears perked, but she didn't panic. She rose, shook herself, and pressed against Michael's leg, waiting for his command. Michael, unable to see the flames or the chaos outside, drew strength from her calm. "Forward," he said, his voice steady. Roselle moved, guiding him toward stairwell B, her steps sure despite the debris littering the floor. Down on the 71st floor, Omar froze as the building swayed. A deafening crash shook the walls, and Salty leaped to his feet, running back and forth in agitation. He was trying to figure out what was wrong, Omar later said. The dog's instincts screamed that danger was near, but he returned to Omar's side, nudging him insistently. Omar grabbed Salty's harness, and together they headed for the stairwell, joined by Omar's supervisor, Donna Enright. The air grew thick with smoke, and the heat was already climbing. The stairwells of the North Tower were a bottleneck of fear and urgency. Hundreds of people poured in, their footsteps pounding, their voices a mix of panic and determination. Roselle led Michael and a group of about 30 others, including his colleague David Frank, down the 1,463 steps from the 78th floor. The stairwell was hot. Temperatures would later be estimated at over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air was heavy with dust and the choking scent of burning fuel. Roselle panted but never faltered. She paused only once to nuzzle a woman frozen in a panic attack, offering a moment of comfort before pressing on. Michael's calm voice resonated through the group. "Don't worry, Roselle's got this," he said, half to himself, half to those around him. His blindness, which might have seemed a disadvantage, became a strength. He couldn't see the terror unfolding, so he focused on what he could control, moving forward, trusting Roselle and keeping others calm. On the 39th floor, they passed firefighters climbing up, their heavy gear clanking. Roselle wagged her tail and leaned in for a quick pat from one of them. It was probably the last moment of love they felt, Michael later reflected, his voice heavy with the weight of that truth. On the 71st floor, Salty guided Omar and Donna through a similar ordeal. The stairwell was crowded, and the heat was oppressive. Halfway down, a co-worker tried to take Salty's leash, thinking it would help. Salty froze, refusing to move until Omar's hand was back on the harness. "He wouldn't leave me," Omar said, his voice thick with gratitude. Salty's loyalty was unshakable, his training kicking in even as the world around them seemed to unravel. Omar, overwhelmed by the chaos, briefly considered letting Salty go, believing the dog might have a better chance without him. He unclipped the harness, urging Salty to run. But Salty stayed, pressing close, guiding Omar step by step. After over an hour, both teams reached the lobby. The scene was a war zone. Firefighters and FBI agents directed survivors, while broken glass and debris crunched underfoot. Roselle led Michael's group through the central complex to an exit, emerging onto the street just as the South Tower collapsed at 9:59 a.m. A deafening roar filled the air, and a cloud of dust and rubble engulfed them. "It sounded like a metal and concrete waterfall," Michael said. Roselle didn't hesitate, pulling him toward a subway entrance for shelter. Along the way, they helped a woman blinded by debris, guiding her to safety. Salty and Omar, meanwhile, were 2 blocks away when the South Tower fell. The ground shook, and the air turned to ash. Salty pressed forward, leading Omar and Donna to safety, his focus unbroken despite the pandemonium. They were still running when the North Tower collapsed at 10:28 a.m., the sound a haunting echo of the danger they'd just escaped. Michael and Roselle made it 40 blocks to a friend's apartment, where Roselle, finally off duty, grabbed her favorite toy and romped with Linny, Michael's retired guide dog, as if the day's horrors were just another adventure. Salty and Omar returned home, where Salty's obsession with tennis balls and lazy naps resumed, a quiet testament to his resilience. In the months that followed, Salty and Roselle were hailed as heroes. On March 5, 2002, they received the Dickin Medal from the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, a rare joint honor for remaining loyally at the side of their blind owners, courageously leading them down more than 70 floors of the World Trade Center and to a place of safety. Salty also earned a Partners in Courage Award from Guiding Eyes for the Blind, while Roselle was posthumously named American Hero Dog of the Year in 2011 by the American Humane Society. Michael wrote a best-selling book, Thunderdog, the true story of a blind man, his guide dog, and the triumph of trust at Ground Zero, and founded Roselle's Dream Foundation to support vision-impaired people. Omar, forever changed by Salty's loyalty, spoke of the dog's impact. "To see my daughters grow to be with my family, it's a gift. Life is a gift." Salty passed in 2008 at age 11, and Roselle in 2011 at 13. Her health weakened by a stomach ulcer and possible toxin exposure from that day. Yet their legacy endures. They weren't just guide dogs. They were beacons of hope, proof that trust and teamwork can overcome even the darkest moments. On September 11, 2001, Salty and Roselle didn't just save their owners. They showed the world what courage looks like, one steady step at a time.